Okay, so let's start with chapter 3 lab. So this will be your lab 2 and chapter 3, and I'm going to follow the second approach where I just use one .py file for all my programs. So if you want to use various or different .py files, please feel free to do that. And let me open a new file. So here is my new file. I'm going to first save this in my computer or wherever location that you want to save that. So let's take this as just going to rename the previous lab. Do not want to replace anything. So make sure you're not replacing anything. So this is Lab2 chapter 3, my last name .py. If you want to do the similar thing, please go ahead. Also make sure that you have comments, add comments to your files because I'm not going to add comments from my end. So when you're making a submission, make sure that you are adding comments and then submit the file. Okay. So let's take a look at the first program. First program is write a program for the scenario. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, cool. Write a program for the scenario. Catherine teaches a science class and her students are required to take 3 tests. She wants to write a program for her students. So that can use to calculate their average test score. She also wants to also program to calculate the student enthusiastically if the average is greater than 95. Here is the algorithm in the pseudocode. So you're getting the first test score. So from the previous lab, whenever you see the word get, that means we are getting the data from the user. So you're basically using the input function, right? Hope you all remember that. Next, you're getting the second test score, getting the third test score, calculating the average, displaying the average. So this was all the first 5 steps were done from the previous chapter. So we do know how to get the data from the user, make the average out of the values that we got from the user. Now, the only new thing that we are adding is if the average is greater than 95, you're just congratulating the user. So first create the variables. I'm just going to call it first test is equal to, and tests can be in decimal, the numbers can have decimal values. So that is the reason why I'm first converting that to float, and then input, enter your first test score. Same thing for the second test. Yeah, second test score. Let's do the same for the third test as well. Float, input, enter your third test score. Okay, now that we are getting the 3 data from the user, next step is to calculate the average. So let's define the variable average is equal to, let's add the 3 values. So it is first test plus second test plus third test. And then divide the whole thing by 3 because we do know how to calculate average, right? It is total sum of all the numbers by the total number of amounts or quantities that we have. So we have 3, so we are adding that. And the next thing is display the average. So let's display the average. Let's say your average is, and we can also use in percentiles here. So that is, let's use average, comma, percentile. Okay, I think once after I print the statement, we can also add the end specifier to remove the extra spaces just for the neat or formatted look. And next, if the average is greater than 95, so that is your first condition. If, I mean, the only condition in this one, if average, it said greater than, did not say greater than or equal to. So you're just going to use this symbol 95. colon, enter. See the indentation? So the interpreter is already waiting with the indentation. So you don't have to do anything when you're writing the statements inside the block. So now let's just congratulate the user. So my 2 exclamations denote that I'm enthusiastically congratulating the user. So this is for the second statement. So if I want to have any other statements inside the block, that is where I'll type. If I want to come out of the block, it's just backspace and see the cursor, it is starting from position 0 again. So that's it for the first problem in our first lab. So let's execute this, Control S, F5, and here is the shell prompt. So enter your first test score. Let's enter that first test score, second test score, and then third test score. Your average is this. So we're not, as this is not greater than 95, we are not congratulating the user. We are not saying anything. We're just printing the average. So in order to make that look better, so if I don't want to see all the decimal values, then there is one function that I can use. That is format function. If you have guessed that correctly, then good job. Let's say I only want to look at 2 decimal points, point to F, and then close this here. Now let's run the same thing and then enter the same scores. 58.36, 84.12, 78.56. So this is the average, 73.68. Now let's use the end specifier to remove the space, and also let's try this condition. Let's congratulate the user for once. So executing this again, should be greater than 95. Then congratulations. So did you see the mistake that I have done? Instead of printing the congratulations in the next line that is followed in the same sentence, because I have used end, which will remove the \n, that is new line from the prompt. So that is the reason I got the wrong output. Like it's not wrong, but it is not what I wanted. Same. So I've changed that to SEP now. Is 97.04%, and then congratulations is your message. Okay. So with this, first program is done. So this will show you that anyone can make mistakes. So I did a mistake. Learning from the mistakes is all about the process of learning. So if you are making mistakes, don't feel bad. It's just, you're still starting, so you'll be fine in the next few chapters. So I've mentioned before you start the new problem, go to format, comment out region. Then start the second program. Okay. So for the second one, it is, we are using the if-else block. So we have if and then else. Chris owns an auto repair business and has several employees. If any employee works over 40 hours in a week, he pays them 1.5 times their regular hourly pay rate for all the hours over 40. So all the full-time employees work for 40 hours. Any number of hours that is more than 40 is considered as overtime. So in general, the regular pay or the base pay is different than the overtime pay. So in this case, the overtime pay is 1.5 times their regular hourly pay rate. So he has asked you to design a simple payroll program that calculates an employee's gross pay, including any overtime wages. You design the following algorithm. You get the number of hours worked. So you're basically asking the user to enter the number of hours worked. You are also getting the hourly pay rate. So you're asking the user to enter the hourly pay rate. Next, if the employee had worked more than 40 hours. So that is, if the number of hours is greater than 40, then you are calculating and displaying the gross pay with overtime. So gross pay is nothing but hours multiplied by pay rate, right? So when the person is working in overtime, the pay rate is 1.5 times the general pay rate. So you take this regular hourly pay rate and then you multiply that with 1.5 and then multiply that with total number of hours. Basically, the extra hours that are not like, if let's say the user has entered 43, so you'll take 3 multiplied with 1.5 with your hourly pay rate. That will be the overtime pay. For the gross pay, you will be adding overtime pay plus the regular gross pay, which is 40 times the regular pay. Else, calculate and display the gross pay as usual. Okay, so first step is getting the number of hours worked. So let's say number of hours is equal to input, enter the number of hours worked. Next is regular pay is equal to float, input, enter the hourly pay rate. Next, let's calculate the gross pay here for regular conditions, or let's just follow the same structure. So if the employee had worked more than 40 hours, so if number of hours is greater than 40, in that case, you are basically calculating overtime pay, which is equal to number of hours minus 40 and then multiplied that with 1.5 times the regular pay. Because we do not want to pay the employer the regular or the 1.5 times of the entire hours that he has worked. So we only want to pay extra for the extra hours that he had worked. So that is the reason here I'm calculating the extra hours and then multiplying the regular pay with that extra pay. And as gross pay, or when you're trying to calculate pay, as it is just multiplication of number of hours worked with the pay rate, that is the reason we're doing this. Next, gross pay in this case will be overtime pay plus the general gross pay, which is number of hours multiplied by regular pay. Or let's say it's 43. So we are getting, okay, that is 40 times regular pay. Then it says calculate and display. So print the gross pay with overtime is, and then use the $sign. Format, that is gross pay. Oops. 0.25. Okay, so that is our if block. Now with the else block, so if the user has not worked for greater than 40 hours, then in that case, you are just displaying the gross pay. You're calculating and displaying the gross pay, which is in this case, number of hours multiplied by regular pay. Make sure you're not doing the same mistakes as I am. I'm just screwing the spellings up. Don't do that. Make sure that you're having the same spellings for all your variables, otherwise you'll be getting name errors or name variable not found exceptions. Regular pay, and then let's print your gross pay is with $sign again, format, gross pay, .2 F. Okay. Now let's execute the program with two different scenarios for better understanding. So enter the number of hours worked, let's say 45. So we are first doing overtime calculation. Let's say hourly pay rate is, let's make it simpler. For now, just for the calculations, I'm just making it simpler, 10. So the gross pay with overtime is 475. If you want to check if that is correct or not, let's take the calculator. So we have total number of hours worked is 45, right? So in that, let's do the standard. Okay. So in that, 5 hours are overtime hours, and 5 times 1.5 times of 10. That is 75. So this is the overtime pay. And for the gross pay, we are adding overtime pay with 40 times regular pay. So I'm adding 75 plus. So let's do 40 times 10. The problem is I did not use the indentation or like the parenthesis. So we have 75 plus, that is 40 times 10, which is 400. So the output is 475. So here basically everything was here, the logic. You just have to make sure you got the logic right. Okay, now let's execute this problem again. And let's take a different scenario. So now that we know that the calculations are right, I'm going to give 47 and then 15.36. So that is the gross pay with overtime. So and let's execute the program again for a different scenario. Let's make this 40 and give us the same pay, that is 15.36. So this is the gross pay. This is the gross pay with overtime for the 7 hours. Okay. So with that, we are done with the second problem. So this is not difficult, right? I don't think any of the problems are difficult. You just have to practice a little bit more and yeah, give some time, like, because you already have like what, 4 days to work on the lab and the quiz. So make sure that you are taking some time and then spending quality time on this one so that it will become easier for you in the next coming chapters. Okay. So the third problem is for the string comparison. The program should prompt the user to enter a password. So this is basically you're asking the user to enter a password, then determine whether the entered string is equal to Prospero. If yes, then the prompt must say password is accepted, otherwise print wrong password. So you have a password. So basically understand this, like when you're trying to log in into anything, your password is already saved when you're first creating the account, right? And then when you're trying to log in again, if you are entering the wrong password, it will give you the message wrong password or incorrect password. If you are entering the right password, it will take that password, check with the existing password which you have previously entered when you are first creating the account. And then if there is a match, it will allow you to access the website. Same thing, same logic that we are trying to do here. But the set password is Prospero. Okay. So the program should prompt the user to enter the password. So first, let's make the Prospero as key. Okay, let's define the variable as key. This is one approach. If you do not want to do that, we can also directly equal to the string. So this is approach 1. I can show you the approach 2 as well. So let's first write the statements with approach 1. And then you are asking the user to enter a password. So I'm creating a variable, password is equal to, and here I'm expecting strings, right? Because I'm not expecting any numbers. Even if the password has anything like, let's say this is Walmart. So Walmart 123 could be the password. So even if the password has some numericals in it, when you are first considering, that will be considered as a string. And we know that input function will return the output in the form of string. So I can directly type enter your password. So again, full disclosure, when you are executing this program, I or the TA do not want to see your actual passwords for any of your websites or any of your accounts. So you can just enter anything. Okay. So please don't get offended when you see such type of questions where I'm asking you to enter your password or age or salary, anything like that. It is nothing personal. And then if there is a match, so how can we check if the password is equal to Prospero or the key in this case? That is by using double equal to sign. If that is equal to key, then we can just say print correct password. And next, you're not checking anything, right? Password is accepted, otherwise wrong password. So basically else print wrong password. So the second approach will be just having this statement. So if password is equal to Prospero. Yeah, Prospero. So this is your approach 2. So approach 1, you are basically defining Prospero as a string and you are assigning that to a variable key and checking with that variable. If you want to follow the approach 2, you can just check with the Prospero directly. And as Prospero is the string, you are having that inside single or double quotes. Okay, now let's execute this program. It says enter your password. I'm going to enter the same Prospero, but with capital P. So this is Prospero, but with a capital P. It says wrong password because capital P and small p or lowercase p and uppercase p are not the same because strings are case sensitive. So you cannot compare like a lowercase string and an uppercase string are not the same. So if I try with anything else, so I can say 30, it says wrong password. Now let's try again with Prospero, says correct password. So that is your problem 3. That is basically demonstrating the usage of string comparisons. Let's start the 4th one next. Okay. So we have already looked into this program from the slides. So at this point, this question should feel familiar to you. If it doesn't feel familiar, please go back to your lecture, go through the lecture again. So write a program to determine whether a bank customer qualifies for a loan with these 2 conditions. The customer salary must be 30,000. The customers must be at their current job for at least 2 years. If all the conditions have met, print you qualify for the loan. Otherwise, you do not qualify for the loan. So let's use a logical operator. And in this case, okay, let's not do with the if-else method. It's not like that's a bad method or it's like, poorly designed or something like that. It is just a good practice to use the operators because from the next chapters onwards, you'll be using operators and or and not much frequently. So it is better to get just things started at this stage. So this is qualifying the loan. So let's ask the user to enter the salary. So salary is equal to int input, enter your salary. Next, years is equal to int, or this could be int or float. I'm just taking int. You can take whatever you feel comfortable with. Enter the number of years. Okay, so now with these two data, we are checking for the two conditions, that is salary must be greater than 30,000 and the number of years should be at least 2 and also should be at least 30,000. So for that, if salary is greater than or equal to 30,000 and notice the change in color, that is because and is a keyword, and years is greater than or equal to 2, print you are qualified for the loan. Else, print you did not qualify for the loan. That's it. Let's execute the program. So enter the salary. Let's say the salary is 25,000, which is not the case. Like we have to be at least 30,000. And then the number of hours worked is 5. You do not qualify. You did not qualify for the loan. If you run this again, let's make the salary as 45,000 and then let's keep the year as 1. Still the same. You did not qualify for the loan. And then let's enter the salary as 56,000. Let's make it 5. So you are qualified for the loan. So if you want to do this in a different approach, like if you want to use the if, elif, and if else blocks like the way that we have discussed. So this can be your approach 1. And when you are submitting your lab, you can just follow any of the approaches. You don't have to do 2 approaches. As I'm discussing the lab with you all, I just want to show you that you can do this in different methods. This is my second approach. Here, first I'm getting the salaries from the user, or let's make them variables as well. So let's make the variable minimum salary is equal to 30,000. Next, minimum years is 2. Then let's get the data from the user, that is salary and years, copying them, pasting them here because repetition of the statements anyway. And then let's check for the first condition. And then if that condition is true, then let's check for the second condition. If the first condition is false, then you do not have to check for the second condition. You can just directly go to the else block. That was what we have discussed in the chapter 3. So if salary is greater than or equal to minimum salary, then in that case, you know what? To make it much more readable, we can bring this statement inside the if block here. So you're first getting the salary, and if that salary is greater than or equal to minimum salary, then you are even bothering to ask for the yes. So you could have the statement outside or you could have the statement inside. I'll also do the approach 3 just so you can have that here. Okay. So then, and then if years must be greater than or equal to minimum years. Oh, some Mr. If condition. So if years is also greater than or equal to minimum years, then print you're qualified for the loan, but you get that idea. If that is also not the case, then I can just have, should we have another statement like with the else block that says print, like as we are checking multiple times, it will be better for the user to also know that he is not qualified. Okay. Now let's have another else block for the first condition. If that is false, print you must earn at least 30,000 to be qualified. Here I can just say you must be employed for at least 2 years. Yeah, like that. Okay. So this is the second approach. Now let's comment this out and then work with the second approach. Enter your salary. Let's enter. Okay, let's enter 25,000 first. We are basically making the condition itself first condition false. You must earn at least 30,000 to be qualified. So as this condition is false, you're directly jumping to this else block statement. Now let's execute this again and then make the first condition true. So 35,000, but make the second condition, that is years of employment, should be at least 2 false. So you must be employed, my bad, for at least 2 years, you did not qualify. Okay, now let's execute this again and then make the, yeah, it's basically the all that is left is making the 2 conditions true. You're qualified. So this is the another approach. For approach 3, the only difference is you can have the years statement outside. So you can just have it here. Then everything else is the same. So let's comment this part out and then work with this. 35,000, 6 years, you're qualified. It's the same thing. It's just the execution. I have just changed the statements here and there. That's it. You have approach 1, approach 2, and approach 3. So when you're submitting the lab, you do not have to have all the approaches, but when you're practicing, but when you're going through this video, make sure that you understand all the approaches that I have here. There is no one solution. You can have the program designed in any way that you want. So there is no one solution for all sort of thing. So if that works for you, then that's great. So as long as the logic and the program execution is correct, I or the TA do not care for which approach you have used. So just make sure that you got it right. Okay, now let's take a look at the 5th program. So some faculty teaches a literature class and is using the following 10-point grading scale for all of his exams. He has asked you to write a program that will allow a student to enter a test score and then display the grade for that score based on the table below. So you have the test score, 90 and above is A, 80 to 89 is B, 70 to 79 is C, 60 to 69 is D, below 60 is F. So you are basically using if, elif, else block, right? Because we have multiple conditions to check. So let's take that. Okay. So let's first get the score from the user or from the student, right? Enter a test score and you're just checking that test score. Okay. Let's create the variable test score. We can have that in float and then change the conditions a little. If not, you can just take the, okay, so that is 2 different ways. So if you are making this in float, like if you are getting the data in float, you can have 90.00 80.00 and 89, 70.00 and 79.00, 60.00 and 69.00. Or you can just type it in int and then use the same numbers. Input, enter your test score. Okay, now that we have the score, you are going to compare with this condition if it is 90 and above. So that is if score is greater than or equal to 90, print A. Grade is A. Next, elif score is greater than or equal to 80 and score is less than or equal to 89. Yeah, in that case, print grade is D. Next, elif score is greater than or equal to 70 and score is less than or equal to 79. Print grade is C. Elif score is greater than or equal to 60 and score is less than or equal to 69. Print grade is D. Next, else, because if it is okay, this will raise questions. Okay, let's just okay, I think else should be fine. Else print grade is F. So if you are like, creating another condition here, instead of having direct else and print grade is F, let's say you are having the statement elif score is less than 60. And then in the next line, you'll have the statement print grade is F. You can leave that there, but I personally do not like that. So I always encourage students to use the else block as well. So just to make things clear, I'm going to copy that, paste it here. And then let's say you have used this here. So that is elif print grade is F. Then in that case, I want you to end the block with else. Print. You can just have invalid score. So let's say if the user has entered value 150. So I think that will still be considered as A because we have this condition. So let's just tweak the question a little bit and then do this. So that if the user has entered anything outside 100 or above 100, it will be considered as invalid score. Yeah. So that is your approach 1 and this is your approach 2. We'll execute both to check if they work, but they're the same. It's just you're adding another else block, so it should work. Anyway, let's just okay. I'm just executing both of them at once. So enter the test score. Let's enter the test score as 150. Says oh. See this error? It says score is not found. That is a name error. So when you have such errors, that is because I am using the variable score, but I have defined that as test score. So instead of changing at multiple locations for score, I'm just changing the test score to score. Happens. Okay, now let's enter the test score. Let's have it at 150. It says grade is F. That is for the first one. Okay, now let's enter the same thing. It says invalid score. Okay, so the better approach, which is logically correct, is approach 2. So when you are working and when you are submitting the code, make sure that you submit the approach 2. Because we do not want to see this, like else 150 or else is F. If it is 150, then it should be invalid score. So this is logically correct. There are no syntax errors, but this is the correct approach. So for that reason, and as this is a video lecture, you always can go back and then see what I have changed and why I have changed it. So I'm going to just remove the complete approach 1 so that it will just remove any sort of confusions. And the reason that I'm removing this is, or I can just do not use this, but I'm still sure that there are some students who will just use the same and then can easily get confused. So for that reason, I'm just going to remove this completely. But again, as is a video lecture, you can always go back and check. Okay. Okay, let's execute this with the good score. So let's enter the score 95. It works. That's good. But what if we enter minus 150? It still says grade is F. So for that, we can have the variable. So you are basically setting from 0 to 60. If the score is from 0 to 60, then that is F. Yes, like if someone wants to play around and then give minus 150, it should be considered as an invalid score. So now let's try with invalid score again. Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to see. Cool. So this is a good demonstration of the problem. What happened? What did I do? Okay, so now let's move on to the sixth one. Sixth one is a good one. Like, you know, it's engaging, it's fun. And also this is the last program of this lab. So that's also good news. Cool. Hit the target game. So the small square that is drawn in the upper right of the window is a target. So here is your window and we are using Turtle Graphics for this one. So the problem is asking you to design a game, and which is basically if you are hitting this square, if you are anywhere inside the square, like all the coordinates inside the square, that means you are hitting the target. If you are anywhere outside the square, you have missed the target. That is your entire program. Your entire program is to design a game that when the user plays with certain angle and speed, you are going to take these two parameters from the user and you are going to use those two parameters in designing the line. So if the user, if you are hitting the target with that line, that means you have reached or you have hit the target. Otherwise, you have missed the target. So that is the basic program, but let's read the complete one. The object of the game is to launch the turtle like a projectile, so it hits the target. You do this by entering an angle and a force value in the shell window. So you're basically asking the user to enter an angle and force. The program then sets the turtle set heading to that specified angle. So whatever angle the user has entered, you will be taking that angle and you'll be specifying that angle as the set heading. So that will be the face of your turtle. And it uses the specified force value in a simple formula to calculate the distance. So that is distance is equal to force times 30. So whatever the user has entered force times 30 will be the distance. So you are going to change the direction of the turtle by using the set heading, the angle that the user just has entered, and then move forward with this distance. If you are inside the square, that means you are hitting the target. If you are outside the square, even if you are passing through that square, you have missed the target. Okay, the greater the force value, the farther the turtle will move, because we are multiplying that with 30, and that is your distance. It's obvious. And then if the turtle stops inside the square, it has hit the target. For this, write a program using turtle graphics. First, set up the height and width of your window to 600 and 600. We do know how to set up the turtle width, that is the window size, that is by using setup. Draw a square with the side length as 25 at the coordinates 100 and 250. It's not G back to, it is go back to the center of the window, that is 0, 0. So you are drawing a square with length 35, and square has all the lengths equal. It has 4 sides and all 4 sides are equal. And then the coordinates are at 100 and 250. So you're going to 100 and 250, you're drawing a square there. You're coming back to the center at 0, 0. Your program for now should look like figure 3.16, that is this one. So this is a turtle and this is a square. Next, the projectile angle and force that you are getting from the user, calculate the distance. Use the projectile angle as the direction of the face of the turtle. Use a if loop to check if the turtle has hit the target or not. For example, figure 3.17 shows a session with the program in which we have entered 45 as the angle and 8 as a force value. So that is way off. So we are here, the target is here, but the turtle is here. That is, you have missed the target. And there is another demonstration with 67 and 9.8. Now that the turtle is inside the square, perfectly inside the square, it says target hit. That's it. So it is very easy. So let's do that. Okay. First statement should be importing the turtle, right? Because your module, the module that you're working is turtle module. So the syntax is import keyword space module name. Next, let's set up the turtle window size to 600 and 600. Now the window of the turtle is set. Now let's make the turtle go to 100 and 250, which are the coordinates, and you must draw a square there. So here, as I'm not drawing anything, that is the reason I made the turtle pen up. And then let's take the turtle to 100, 250. Now let's draw a square. Okay, as we have not introduced loops yet, we'll have to repeat the statements. Now, first step is turtle.pen down. Next, you are asking the turtle to move forward 25. So if you want to see how that looks, okay, so this is the plane. So from here, it went up to 100 and 150, and now it is 25 degrees towards east. Now let's make the turtle direction change. So instead of using right, that is turtle.right and turtle.left, I'm going to use turtle.set heading. And set heading will use the angles, right? So I'm just taking 90 from the Cartesian coordinate system. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270. Yeah, it's again 360 or 360 basically. Yes. So turtle.set heading 90. If you want to see what happens next. So now that the turtle is facing upwards. Okay. Next is turtle.forward 25. So when you are moving the turtle forward to 25, what will be the coordinate here? So we were at 100 and 250 in the initial position. Now we are here. We are moving on the x-axis. Y-axis is remaining constant. So this point, the point where the turtle is as of now, will have the coordinates 125, 200, right? Once it is going up here, the coordinates will again change. So we'll see that as well. Turtle dot forward, next turtle dot set heading. Let's do 180. And then turtle dot forward 25. Turtle dot set heading 270. Oops. Turtle dot forward 25. Yeah. Okay, I think with that we have successfully drawn a square. It's here, it was here initially 90. Sorry, it is now moving forward 90, forward 180, forward 270, down. Is that clear? I guess it is clear. It should be clear. It's simple. Next, turtle dot go to 0, 0. So if every time, oops, but I made a mistake because I have did not ask the turtle to pen up. So instead of trying just typing the statement pen up, let's check if the turtle is still pen up. So if turtle dot ease down, so ease down will return true or false depending upon the turtle state, right? If that is pen down, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So if that is pen down, turtle dot pen up. And then let's bring this statement inside the if block as well. So turtle dot go to 0, 0. Now let's execute this. Yeah. Now we are here. Now we have to make sure to set the turtle face to 0, 0. So I'm also adding another statement inside my if block, that is turtle dot set heading zero. That is towards east, 0 degrees. Now we are done. So we have now set up the game. Now we have to ask the user to enter the force value and the angle. But before we do that, let's just calculate. Okay, we cannot calculate the distance as of now because we do not have the force value. And that is because if we have the statement prior to getting the force value, we'll be getting an error because the Python interpreter will take it from top to down approach. So whatever statement is placed first, that will be executed first, right? So let's get the angle. And then put enter an angle. And then let's take the force value. You could take both of them in float, doesn't matter. Get a force value. So with this, calculate the distance is equal to force times 30. Now, with the values that we have got from the user, we are going to change the heading position of our turtle. So turtle dot set heading with the angle that the user has entered. And then turtle dot forward with distance. Okay, so let's execute till here. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, first I'll have to enter an angle. Let's say the angle is 45. Force value is 8. So the turtle is at this position. Notice two things. We have made pen up, so we did not draw anything. That is our first mistake. Second mistake is, what if it is here, but what happens next? Like it is not saying anything. If did we miss the target? Did we not miss the target? We don't know that. So I'm going to use another if block that says if turtle dot is down. So that will return true if the turtle is down, otherwise it will return false. So turtle dot pen down. So I think I'll have to include a not here, because if that is true, then it should be, because turtle dot is down is false, right? If this statement like turtle dot is down is false, because we are now in the pen up situation. So if this is false, then the if block will not execute. So in order to make this if block execute, I'm just negating that by using not. Okay. Now let's see what happens. The turtle is here, enter an angle, let's say 65 versus 8. Okay. It's here. So it's just a little bit more force, and I think we should be inside the square. At an angle, let's say keep it at 65. Let's enter the value 10. Okay. So now it has crossed. So it is not, we still did not miss hit the target, because the turtle, the face or the tip of the turtle is outside the square. So it still doesn't, it still is not considered. Okay, but to make this clear, let's now write conditions. So we'll be again using the AND operator. So if but then let's consider the x coordinate first. So if a turtle dot x car is greater than or equal to 100, that is our first condition, right? Because we are at 100 and 250. Is that? Yeah, it's at 100 and 250. So if the x coordinate is greater than 100 and less than 125, because 100 plus 25 is 125. Even here it is 125. Here it is only changing the y-axis, but the x-axis, the maximum value is 100 and 125. If x car turtle dot x car is greater than or equal to 100 and turtle dot x car is less than or equal to 125. Okay, to make the statement continuation, I'm just opening a bracket here. So here is the open bracket. So hit enter, now it is indented. So and turtle dot y car is greater than or equal to 250. And the maximum value the y coordinate can have is 250 plus 25. It's 275. In that case, print, you hit the target. Else, print, yes, the target. So let's check the execution. So now that we are here, it is asking to enter an angle. Okay, I cannot move this window until I enter something here. So let's enter 65 again. Value same 10. So it says you missed the target because we are outside the ranges. So let's tweak this a little bit, like the force value. Angle is still at 65 because that's almost appropriate. And then make this 9. Still says miss the target because we are here. Okay, let's execute this again. Okay, turtle is being drawn, angle is 65, and then 9.5. You hit the target. So the tip is inside the square. So that says you hit the target. So that is your end of lab 2 for chapter 3. So you will be, I hope like before you start your lab, you have already gone through the lecture. If not, please do that and then work with the lab. You'll have a CS circle assignment and the programming assignment coming as well. So make sure you follow the deadlines and then submit accordingly, everything accordingly. Okay, and I will also be posting another video with the CS circle submissions. So please take a look at that for any questions with the CS circle submission. Bye for now. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or to the TA.